Tightrope is a 1984 serial crime thriller written and directed by Richard Tuggle, starring Clint Eastwood, Allison Eastwood, and Genevieve Bujold. When a New Orleans single dad and cop, Wes Block, goes after a serial rapist killer, but when he gets too close, the hunter suddenly becomes the hunted. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema, and welcome to yet another Clint Eastwood review for this month. Tightrope from 1984. I finally got to watch this one, and you know what? I can't believe more people don't talk about this movie. I thought this was a really well-made movie. The rumor is that Clint Eastwood is a ghost director on it. Like, Clint Eastwood kind of took over the show on this movie. There's a really good interview, if you want to check out, from the director, Richard Tuggle, that my good buddy Gareth from Video Tasties did. I'll put a link to that interview in the description below. I think you guys should all check that out. He was a really rookie director at the time, probably didn't have a lot of confidence, and when, Clint Eastwood is your main star and he's, taking over, I can imagine it must have felt kind of very intimidating. I mean, I really see Clint Eastwood's stamp on it. Like, I think because his daughter's in this, Allison Eastwood plays his daughter in the movie, his daughter in real life, so I think Eastwood would have directed a lot of those scenes, but I don't know. I just heard that he was a ghost director. Richard Tuggle did write this and he did direct this. It was a very risky film at the time, I would say, for Clint Eastwood's career. I mean, I'm not this is more of a sexual crime thriller. This is neo-noir kind of thing. He could have just done another Dirty Harry movie. You know what I mean? He could have kept cashing in on that, but he doesn't. He does something that's a little bit more risky. It's not one no one ever talks about, though, because I knew nothing about this movie. And I think that was the allure to it. I think that was the surprise, that surprised how good it really was. Like, so Clint Eastwood essentially is this cop on this case where these women are being raped, they're being killed. He's also someone where his wife recently left him for another man, and he's a single dad. He's raising his two girls and all that. So it shows the family side, the Clint Eastwood's character, the warm side. And when he's trying to catch his killer, he goes to the red light districts. He goes to these brothels where the prostitutes are. One of the things he likes to do is like doing sexual acts by handcuffing women up. And this was like 50 Shades of Clint, if you will. Not as graphic. You don't see nothing quite as graphic, but that's really what it is. And this killer starts hunting down Clint Eastwood. When Clint is with one of these girls, the girl winds up dead. The killer starts getting into the head of Clint Eastwood's character.
You motherfucker. I'm gonna break your motherfucking ass.
I just really like this cat and mouse approach to this movie. The neo-noir of it. Still a detective movie, and the real heart of the movie really is him and his girls, him and his family, his two daughters, especially Allison Eastwood, who plays his oldest daughter here. All the scenes they're together with, I thought were really well done. These are two girls who love their dad, who want to stay with their dad. Their mom's getting remarried. Their mom wants them to live with her, which is not, you don't see a lot of that, but the girls love their dad. They want to stay in this, what family they have left here. And that was really the heart of this. It's really about the darker side of humanity, where this character is walking the tightrope. They even say at some point in this movie where we all have darkness in us. Some of us go full on for that darkness. Some of us, only live on our heads. We walk a tightrope. We're constantly walking a tightrope. Are we going to be seduced by this darker side of ourselves? And it's really this psychological thriller where the killer and Clint are tied together psychologically, you know what I mean? And I love that. It's a really great psychological thriller here. There was no evidence that he was a lousy husband or his wife left for another man. And it wasn't until after that he started roaming these brothels and, finding company with these women. You feel like he's got no control in his life. And the way he takes control is by dominating these women, by handcuffing them. That's the only kind of control he gets. And he doesn't want another woman to get close to him. And then he starts dating this woman in this movie who works at this rape crisis center where teaches ladies how to defend themselves and everything like that. And they're two people you don't really see getting together, but you see how well they would be together. And I really like all those scenes with Genevieve Bujold and Clint Eastwood. But it's just such a different Clint Eastwood performance where, Clint Eastwood never brings a woman home to his house. He always goes out, when he's on the case, he goes to these brothels, and I just like that story of this regular guy, this really cop dabbling into the darkness a bit of his own dark side. And, the killer starts getting closer and closer and closer to him. The killer's masked through the whole movie. You don't really get to know a whole lot about him except for that Clint Eastwood, that the guy was a cop actually, which that's a scary thing too, because cops are supposed to be safe and what he's doing to these women and everything. There's one point in this movie where the killer actually comes to Clint's home and, kills the maid or the nanny and then handcuffs his oldest daughter up. And, it's a really great sequence when Clint gets there. He finds his daughter handcuffed and, he puts them in the closet. And then it's like this cat and mouse through this house. And I like how it switches. There's a point where it goes from Clint's perspective of, tracking the killer down in the house. And, you are on the edge of your seat on this scene. And then it switches to the kids where it's from their perspective now. You're just in there in the closet with them as if you were there as a young child and you just hear two gun blasts. And then, we know Clint's going to be safe. We know that, but it still draws that tension out. And when the girls find out that their dad's still alive, that, he scared the killer away and all that, you're almost just kind of like this, it's just the way it was crafted. I thought it was really great scene. Clint Eastwood had this feeling like this was going to happen. And when I say it goes full on horror, I mean, Clint Eastwood finds the nanny in the dryer spinning around. I mean, this I hear Play Misty for me is the closest thing he did to horror. This walks that line too of thriller and horror, you know what I mean? And I think it's one of the most underrated Clint Eastwood performances too. I really love this performance. I really love how you see several sides of him. You see him as a father and the warmth and the how much he cares for his girls goes into that. You see him as the cop, you know what I mean? And he's not like a Harry Callahan kind of cop. He's not, a fascist, and he's not overly aggressive and, blasting people away every second. No, he's a different kind of cop. He's a little bit more metal, like I've said before. And then we see how he gets into this nightlife, how he loves handcuffing women up, and how he's, him and the killer are kind of like liking the same things. And this, at one point, this movie, this kind of scares him, I think, and brings him back. You know what I mean? It's just that storytelling of how we all have it in us. We all have the darkness in us. And how far do we go with it? How far do we act out on our fantasies? You know what I mean? And an added bonus, there are some gorgeous women in this movie. I will just say that. And he has a complete arc, where he, at the end of the day, he lets a woman back into his life. Like earlier with Genevieve Bujould's character, she goes to touch him on the face and he just draws back. He's just saying that he's not ready for that. You know what I mean? He's not ready to let a woman back into his heart, back into his life. And at the end, he catches the killer. He kills the killer. It ends at like it's like a train sequence, hopping on these trains and stuff like that. And then at the end, she goes to grab his face again and he lets her. And I thought, great character arc, seeing the character go from here, dabbling into the darkness, being drawn out of it. I thought it was just a really well-written movie, because it's not just your regular just cop movie. It's a cop movie with some darkness to it. You know what I mean? Just love stuff like that. And I like psychological stuff like that, psychological thrillers, right? So I think this movie, it just really worked for me, man. I don't want to count out that score, man. The score has this awesome New Orleans blues, jazzy music going through it, the sax, really awesome stuff through most of it. But when there's tension-filled scenes, dramatic scenes, it goes for more of that horror atmosphere, kind of, building of the tension with the strings and everything like that. You know what I mean? So I just love that. I love the score to this. I thought it was very, very good. All in all, this was a really good surprise. I think I was on YouTube and I watched my buddy Gareth from Video Tasties doing a watch party of this, and I go, Tightrope? I've never heard of Tightrope. And so I had to check it out. I just loved it, man. I thought it was great. So definitely don't sleep on it. Check out Tightrope if you have not watched this before. If you like these neo-noir, you like the sexual crime thrillers and stuff like that, you'll definitely enjoy this one, I think. So I'm going to give Tightrope a solid B. But what about you guys? Let me know if you've seen Tightrope. If you haven't, go watch it, then come back and watch the review. Let's have a great discussion about Tightrope and all that jazz. Here's your next video to watch on the channel. Go down the rabbit holes, I always say. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema. I'll see you later, and I'll see you in the movies. Cheers.